Hey guys, BDCKR here, and welcome back to our weekly Q&A/update video. So, as always, we'll start off with the weekly update. In WWE Immortals, the online multiplayer event is for evolved Sheamus, and the current challenge is the Booster Pack Challenge, where you get better stuff when you complete it on the harder difficulties. Leading up to the Triple H pack, which has some of the harder to otherwise get characters in it. In Mortal Kombat X, there is a new early access pack for Bone Shaper Shinnok. The challenge is still for Kraken Reptile or Kraken, and the Faction Wars is a regular season. And finally, in Injustice, the online battle is a regular season. The character challenges for Dawn of Justice Superman for the next little bit on our side, but it'll probably be over or just about by the time you watch this. And the Survivor gear set is for the League of Assassins gear until March 24th. So a lot of people have been asking about the promotion glitch, which is the one where you can promote characters even when you can't do it through the store or otherwise. Despite the MetaHuman Flash discount pop-up, it doesn't actually work right now because of the early access pack for Dawn of Justice Wonder Woman appearing before the screen for Dawn of Justice Superman's challenge. So the same thing has happened before with the with Arkham Knight Harley Quinn back in December 2015.
With her earlier access pack.
Yeah. So we won't say it's patched just yet, since once the early access pack for Arkham Knight Harley Quinn had left the store, we were actually able to use the glitch again, so there's no really information to suggest that it's patched just because it's not working right now. So we just need to be patient and see what happens. And so for all the people who are asking right now, there are currently no glitches for power credits in the most recent update. And if you want to know when we find one, keep watching our Q&As or subscribe to us, that way you'll see it as soon as we figure out and are able to film a video for it. So the first question of the week comes from Momodou Senghore, and he says, damage and health augments are good on the right characters. Like, I used a bunch on New 52 Nightwing to bring his stats up, almost equaling Arkham Knight, and Arkham Knight Harley Quinn. Right now, Arkham Knight is at 49,000 damage, Harley Quinn is at 43,000 damage, and Nightwing is at about 35. So in some cases, it's worth it just to level out those characters if you like the aspects of one character, but its stats aren't where you'd like them to be.
Okay, that's a fair comment. This was on the video where we talked a little bit about how we were putting our damage and health augmentations on the bronze and silvers. Now, so what you said is fair. On the other hand, many of our best teams usually highlight one character. 2 characters at the most. We very rarely, if ever, put 3 cards that we like to play on the same team, because that would usually mean that one card doesn't get played much. So if you've got 2 cards, Arkham Knight, and Arkham Knight Harley Quinn, that you already like to play with, the third one isn't going to get much action. And if you feel like you want a third card that will carry its own weight, there are already many better options. So as a good example, if you've got Arkham Knight and Arkham Knight Harley Quinn is missing out on half of her passive by not having a Joker on the team, right? And Arkham Origins Joker is perfect because he gets a boost on his damage over time poison, having 2 Arkham teammates, while giving Arkham Knight Harley Quinn 3 bars of power if he gets knocked out first. His base stats line up pretty well with Arkham Knight and Arkham Knight Harley Quinn, so he doesn't need any health or damage augmentations to fit in. And consider your original team, besides which, if you had left Arkham Knight and Arkham Knight Harley Quinn unaugmented without increasing their damage stats, they would be about 43,000 damage each. Then New 52 Nightwing, at 33,000, he's not that far off. That's more than 75% of what their damage is. So a team of all 3, if they were unaugmented as far as damage goes, that's not that unbalanced. So if you're including New 52 Nightwing for his power drain on Special 1, he still drains as much no matter how little damage he does.
Yeah.
And he's a great juggler, so if you're if he's just like a backup, sort of a last ditch kind of thing, 75% of damage is actually not that bad.
Okay, so our next question comes from Lloyd Banks, and he says, "Amazing video. I want to apply a question. I'm kind of pissed off with the new overpowered characters, and I'm also a nostalgic player like you. So I want to play and win with the first gold characters from the shop, like Batman Prime, my favorite, etc. What is the best team you can make only by the shop, like a starter?" And I think this is probably a relatively common thing that people are annoyed at when they're trying to come back to Injustice, because it just seems like there's a huge amount of stuff that you have to catch up on when you take a break, and all the new stuff is almost necessary.
Yeah, when you stop playing for a while, power creep is not your friend.
Yeah, the new couple of characters are really useful to have, and then when you go a couple months back, you almost need to have characters that are fresh, right? Because those are, like, all the most competitive characters seem to be the new ones.
Yeah. So, to answer your question, the best team, it really depends on how you play. But you almost need to have a power drainer to avoid as many specials as possible when you're talking about guys whose stats don't match up to the newer, overpowered guys, right? So the teams that we've used for multiplayer demos, the one that has cards that are all available for buying directly without completing any challenges, that's the animated Harley Quinn, Regime Green Lantern, and New 52 Nightwing team.
Okay, and so then this is a follow-up question. So this is also Lloyd Banks. Yeah, I remember the Nightwing team. I'm a viewer of your videos from the beginning. I prefer the damage dealer, tank, special specialist, or second tank teams. I learned that from your videos. I like to have Prime Batman as a tank. He has one of the best healths and passives from the shop golds. The other two, what's your opinion?
Alright, so, I mean, at this point it gets a little bit complicated. When you have one person that you really want to highlight and you want to play with, so if you're using him as a tank, you need at least one damage dealer. So part of it is when you're working with the guys that are in the store, their stats are relatively in line. Yeah, you could lean towards somebody who's got more damage, but it all comes down to how you play with it and how the juggling is. So our preference is for somebody fast, but you could have somebody slower as long as you like using the rhythm. And my personal preference is to really only have one tank, not to have two tanks. I tend to like having two offensive players, unless you're going to use somebody with a really good passive like Regime Green Lantern, because the danger of a team like that is that if your offensive guy gets knocked out, then you're kind of dead in the water, unless you've got somebody else that can actually do some damage.
And even worse, you're not necessarily dead quick.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, even if you're successful and you're juggling really well, if your damage is too low, it just gets really drawn out, and then that's where the gears and everything else starts to have a bigger effect. If you can knock them out quickly, then it's sort of an equalizer.
Yeah, so I guess that's partially reflective of what's safer, but also partially reflective of the way that we enjoy playing, which is faster fights that are...
We're not big on healing.
Yeah, so if a fight is going to take really long anyways, we want it to take, we want to be able to deal as much damage as possible right at the beginning, even if both of our offensive guys are going to get knocked out. So the tanks are always good to have as a backup, but at the end of the day, we hope that they're only useful as a backup, or strategic to take a little bit of damage.
Right, like a damage sponge.
Yeah. Okay, so our last question of the week comes from Taka HK 1000 Birds, and she says, or he says, do you think Insurgency Batman works well with the Cloak of Destiny? And you mentioned in your video characters with bonus stats with promotions such as Deathstroke and Scorpion. How does this help with augmentations once the character reaches his max level, which is 50? Will they still receive the health or attack bonus?
Okay, so the first part is that you're referring to Insurgency Batman's passive that gives him an extra 300% more damage to basic attacks if the opponent is stunned. So yeah, it's not a bad boost, along with the Cloak of Destiny's 200% more damage across the board. So if you're only going to consider characters that are available in the store, this sounds like a recurring theme now in these questions, he's a great guy to use it on. Besides the Cloak of Destiny's 20% chance to stun on tag-in, he's got a special one that can stun. So he's got signature gear that can stun on tag-in too, the new Dawn of Justice one, the Batman hood or cowl, when it's been fully fused.
With the eyebrow ridges.
Yes, the eyebrow ridges. I think it's a grooming issue, right? With the big eyebrow ridges and the facial hair, the stubble.
Yeah.
So when you've got both on, you're getting like a 500 boost on basic attacks. Alright, but you got to keep a few things in mind. It's basic attacks only, So you get a better and bigger damage boost out of the cloak if you're using a special. And the 500% boost only lasts for one basic attack combo because, clearly he's not stunned after that, right? So you got to make it really count. I mean, potentially, when you're talking about 6 times as much damage just from the stun and the gear, that's pretty good. You should be able to take out a significant chunk of the other guy's health on that one, but it relies on you stunning him, and again, it's not nearly as impressive as, say, Batgirls, which the Cloak of Destiny was really made for, which we're not considering because they're not in the store, but they can do a huge amount of special 1 damage.
Yeah.
So, to answer the second part of your question, so Deathstroke has a passive that grants an 8% damage boost per promotion. So with a full 7 promotions, you're talking about an extra 54%. And what that means is that for damage augmentation on somebody else just gives you straight damage augmentation. Damage augmentation on Deathstroke, because of his passive, gives you 1.5 times as much. So then it becomes way more useful because then you do get an advantage, because even if your opponents scale up, it doesn't scale up nearly as much as the advantage that you get.
Yeah, so you scale up more. And Mortal Kombat X Scorpion has the exact same thing except for health. So, it'll be the same 1.5 times as much effect, right? If they're fully eluded. And if you were asking the question the other way, it's a little ambiguous by phrasing, but if they're already level 50, you still get the full benefits of augmenting them, if that's what you were asking. So augmenting them at level 1 or level 50 provides you the same stat bonus once they're level 50, once they're max level. It's the same way that, I don't know, this is maybe too nerdy, but it's the same way EVs work in Pokemon. It's just a stat that levels up as you level up with you a little bit, so it increases your base stats and your other stats, but if you're already at level 50, you'll get the full effect right away.
Alright, and that's it for this week.
Yeah, so thanks for watching. We will see you guys next time. Komoda.